Amanda Lang is back with us today, which is great. She is host of Taking Stock, which airs Friday evening at 6 o'clock on BNN Bloomberg and also here on the iHeart Radio Network. Amanda, welcome back.
Good to be with you.
So there's so much going on business-wise. I will tell you that the other day, I know Cineplex reported their record earnings. In fact, not just record for this year, I think record ever. Look, yeah. I get the fact people are going back to the movies, but I thought, wow, that's not just going back. We're back to pre-pandemic levels. And, of course, Metro reporting their quarter. Great numbers there as well. Does this mean we're on the way back economy-wise?
It's definitely a reason for optimism, I would say. I mean, on Cineplex, it is the best July they've ever seen. They're breaking many records here. We can thank, of course, a few good movies, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Mission Impossible. I would note that their box office receipts are still below 2019 levels. So their total revenue was because when we go, we're apparently buying more popcorn. They make a lot of money on the concessions. And so in terms of the volume, we may not be there. But for the business, a real sign of life. I was interested in Metro as well because, of course, the grocers have been struggling with the food inflation in the supply chain and the extent to which they can pass it on. Metro's profit up, when you look at taking out some one-time things, it's still double-digit increase, 11%. And that was even as their gross margin, their profitability on food got squeezed a little bit. So they're managing to be competitive. You and I both know that's a problem for them because they might be doing it on wages, and they have some striking workers, of course, who want some of that profit.
So I heard the rumors sort of starting to begin that those strikers in the Greater Toronto area, that might bleed out to other areas because these profits are too high. So do you feel like there's grumblings and maybe that strike might become more widespread, Amanda?
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, to me, one of the notable things about the Metro strike was that, as I understand it, the workers actually rejected their own bargaining team's suggestion of an agreement and said, no, we're going out. And so, yes, when there's profitability. And, we learned, some of us, in a kind of a new way through pandemic, that what we call frontline are often not the best paid jobs, right? And in some cases, far from it. And so if we're going to ask people to be there day in, day out to do the things that the rest of us require just to get by, we should probably pay them, a decent wage. And so when you look at kind of the increases they're asking for relative to what inflation's done, I wouldn't be surprised to see it spread, to be honest, although strikes are hard on workers as well as everyone else.
And I bet from a PR point of view, the idea of rolling back that $2 hero bonus or whatever you want to call it, maybe the dumbest thing they ever did.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult. And I will say, groceries themselves have terrible margins. It's an awful business. I've said for years, if you meet a grocer, you should give them a hug because we should all be grateful they bother to do it based on what they make. But these businesses are big enough now that they've managed to diversify into other products, and they do make money. We can see it, right, in their earnings. So obviously they found a way to do it. They should probably funnel some of that back to their employees is clearly the message that they should be hearing.
So we had someone on yesterday on the show talking about the fact that productivity, and this is a bit of a surprise, I think, to both of us when we heard the number. Canada next to last in productivity with all G7 nations. You brought this up in your note today, suggesting that, you know what, I don't think I'd ever heard of the government here being accused of being anti-business, but it does seem that's an issue.
Not the government. This is actually Philip Cross doing some research. You'll remember him as kind of the chief economic analyst at StatsCan. He did a report looking at our attitudes towards business. He is concerned that we in this country have a cultural barrier that keeps business from succeeding. His point is government policies can only go so far, and we don't celebrate business. He said if you say to a business person, does it ring true for you that when you knock it out of the park and succeed at your business, you're kind of made to feel like you've done something wrong, you've done a bad thing. And he says business people nod along in agreement with that. It's kind of a familiar thing. Other countries, and obviously we look especially at the States, really celebrate their successes. And the point he's raising, we talk about it on the show, is could we do better at that? Can we tell people it's great to be in business, start a business, be an entrepreneur, and we will celebrate you instead of making you feel bad if you get wealthy off it.
But with respect to the government, couldn't we be better in terms of offering better tax advantages like they do in other countries? Because the essence of the interview we did was, it's not that we're bad, it's that everyone else is doing so much better and trying so much harder to encourage business.
There's a bunch of policies we could do. The point that we were making, that's certainly a path you can go down. I will say there are a lot of business supportive policies in this country, including things like tax incentives to invest in themselves And we have seen the point that Philip Cross makes is business investment is at historic lows. And that's a problem, right? That's a real sign of a reluctance to invest in your own business. And that's where the real payoffs are. That's where you get that competitiveness and the innovation that fuels kind of future growth. So governments can only do so far. Yes, obviously we need to stay competitive with others, and taxes would be one place you would look. But I think that there's a really interesting bigger question for Canadians of, do we celebrate our business people enough? Do we say, it's great that you make money because we all benefit?
Yeah, that's so interesting to me. And just this idea that things are stable. They're not getting worse, but they're also not getting better. And maybe celebrating would help things get better. It'd certainly be a great motivator. Excellent. Very interesting, Amanda.
Just really quick, Amanda. I know numbers in the U.S., inflation numbers, what are they, 3.3%, a little higher than they thought, but actually pretty good reaction from markets overall. Are we following that path? Are we starting to see that here as well, with inflation being in check now?
We have the one place we've diverged, so we'll be watching it super closely, is the U.S. numbers have been moderating, including in the grocery store. And in our country, we've seen that the inflation numbers moderating, but not for food and shelter. Shelter tied to mortgage rates, so obviously that's going to be an issue as long as rates are high. We need to see food prices moderate. So I'll be watching that super closely as we get the Canadian inflation data, because that's what's hurting most people here, right, is your shelter and your food. And as long as we feel that, it's going to feel like the cost of living is out of whack.
Amanda Lang, host of Taking Stock, 6 o'clock, BNN Bloomberg. Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate it. Great to have you back.
Great to talk.